Area Dragons with a fiery comeback against Barangay Ginebra in Game 2 of the PBA Commissioner's Cup Finals. Now let's go all out on this story with basketball analyst Juan Banal. 1B, good morning. Welcome back to the show.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas and, of course, advance Happy New Year before we welcome in the New Year 2023. Before I head on to the PBA, I want to get your take on Luka Doncic. As a lot of NBA players react, I was hoping we'd show the reactions, but I want to get your reaction to Luka Doncic's that historic triple-double against the New York Knicks in overtime fashion pa. Napanood mo ba?
I don't know if it was something humble from his side, but in the post game interview, he was actually surprised to score 6 points. He said, "Oh, is that much that he scored?" So you know he was just operating on just his natural nature. He was just a scoring machine. A lot of people compare him to a combination of Larry Bird and James Harden, just the craftiness. His body just, it took time for it to kind of catch up to his basketball IQ and his experience. But right now he's already there, and there's more to come for Luka. He did say that playing in the NBA is much easier compared to playing in Euro League. So anywhere on the floor, to make the right decisions every play or most of the time is a testament to that. So it's just exciting to watch someone like Luka, right? He gives hope to those who are unathletic, quote unquote. There are a lot of unathletic players out there that feel like then it doesn't. You don't have to be a high leaper to actually score buckets like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. You just have to be wise and crafty. And so Luka gives hope to everybody, most especially like someone like me, Andre.
Grabe, no? And at 23 years old, Luka already has the most 50-plus point performances in Mavs history. He actually had a lot of historic moments yesterday. First 60-point, 20-rebound, triple-double in NBA history. Okay, before we move to the PBA, do you think Luka will go down as the greatest Mav who ever played for Dallas? Or, syempre, nandyan si Dirk Nowitzki na may statue. Ang tingin mo?
I mean, unless he wins a chip, that kind of story because of what Dirk has done. So
Correct.
I think you can have multiple stars in a franchise, and obviously nobody can just replace a Dirk Nowitzki. But I think he could be better, quote unquote. He can achieve more if he's surrounded by the right players. But until he hasn't won a chip, I don't think we can say that he can replace Dirk as the best player in the Mavs. But if he does, then that's a conversation to have. But right now, showing brilliance. We did see Dirk was also somebody that we talked about before.
Yes.
When he was at his peak, people still talked about Luka talked about Dirk the way we're talking about Luka today.
Correct. Well, Luka Doncic, Luka Magic nga, ibang klase. And I feel that he's gonna do something still na, kumbaga, na magical. Kung akala mo, tapos na kasi ngayon, gumawa siya ng 60-point, 20-rebound, triple-double. I'm sure may gagawin pa to ulit si Luka. Okay, let's shift now from the NBA. Let's go to the PBA. Commissioner's Cup Finals, tied series after Bay Area answering back yesterday against Ginebra. Ano yung mga nakita mong major adjustments na ginawa ng Bay Area to take Game 2? I want to get your thoughts after watching that game yesterday as we take a look at the numbers right now on our screens. Juan.
I think the coaches, Coach Brian and Coach Tim, did mention immediately what needed to be done, what had to be done in Game 2, and what happened in Game 2. So Coach Tim actually gave us already a brief analysis of the experience of playing against Bay Area in Game 2. But I think for me, just to re-emphasize those things, number one, it's playing lesser minutes of the core. I think he took a risk and just said, I needed a win, so I'm gonna stick to my guys, my core players, because he kind of experimented in Game 1. I think he played 10 players compared to his
Correct.
usual 7 to
Yes.
8 man rotation. And I think he needed that win. I think he also anticipated the longer break that they're gonna have in between Game 2 and Game 3, to give his core players some rest. But leading up to the finals, he's been playing a very tight knit rotation.
Yep.
And then sudden in game one, he tried something out and it didn't work for him because in game one, they scored in the second quarter and in the fourth quarter below 20 points. And they, although they started strong, when it was the second unit that played in the second quarter, they only scored 15 points. So that didn't turn out so well for Bay Area, but he made the right adjustments. They won three of the four quarters in game two, averaging 30.5 points in second and fourth quarter. So before they end the first half and as they end the second half, they definitely gave it their all and they played well and they stuck to their core, which resulted to 31 points in both the second and the third and the fourth quarter.
Well, tama ka dun, Juan. Bumalik siya dito sa shorter rotation niya. Medyo nag-experiment nga ng game 1. 10 to 11 players yung ginamit. Ito, he played 3 players for more than 40 minutes. Yung other 3 naman, more than 30 minutes. So yun nga, mga 6 to 7. Do you see this kind of rotation to be dragged out if the series extends to longer to game 7? And do you think that will be a disadvantage or an advantage? Kasi syempre habang pag tumagal at humaba tong series to, baka mas lalong mapagod. We know these players are tough. Sina Blankley, sina Kobe Lam, condition yung mga yan, sina Andrew Nicholson. But if they keep on, kumbaga if Coach Brian keeps on using this shorter rotation of 7, 8, sagad mo na sa 9, pero I don't think Coach Brian will delve away from his core. Do you think pabor to for Bay Area if makita mo ngang tumagal to ng Game 7 series, short rotation lang ang gamitin?
Well, if I'm Coach Brian, I wouldn't want it to reach Game 7. That means I want a shorter series. I want to go all out. I want to finish. I want to finish this early because I have a shorter rotation and compared to the depth of Ginebra, and they already anticipated based on Game 1's result that this is how the finals will be called, right? Siyempre, every time umangat na series, nag-a-adjust din naman yung officiating natin. Not naman changing the rules, but really what's allowed and what's not allowed, those gray areas, because it's the finals. But you don't want to call touch fouls in the finals. The physicality is allowed, and so they did adjust in game 2, so they were more aggressive. They anticipated that they're going to be calling this way, so they said, okay, then let's go hard to the basket. It's very interesting because if we look at the numbers, points in the paint for Bay Area in game 1 was 32. In game 2, they had 42. And then in terms of free throws, they only shot 8 out of 16 in game 1. In game 2, they shot 18 out of 21. And they limited also Ginebra to less than 20 points in the quarters in the first half. So 16 and 19 lang ang na-score ng Ginebra in the first half. Samantalang sila, they scored 22 and 30 in the first half alone. So you saw how they started also playing physical defense and then kind of exploited also the atmosphere and the dynamics of this kind of finals, and then started attacking and being more aggressive to the basket. And so for me, I'll rather go all in and end the series at a shorter span rather than looking and anticipating for game 7. So if I'm Bay Area, my mindset is not go game 7 because you kind of know what the results will be if game 6 or game 7. So for me, I want a shorter series. If I can end this in game 5, then end it in game 5. And if we're going to play continuously this way with a shorter rotation and then win the succeeding 3 more games, then I think they'll sleep soundly at night knowing that they did the right they made the right call.
Well, Juan, let's take a quick break now. Time out muna tayo. Pahinga ka muna, inom ka muna ng glass of water. Our all-out discussion on the PBA Commissioner's Cup Finals will continue with basketball analyst Juan Banal. Still breaking down Game 2 of the PBA Commissioner's Cup Finals between Barangay Ginebra and the Bay Area Dragons with basketball analyst Juan Banal on the show today. Juan B, nakainom ka na ba ng tubig? Naka-relax ka konti?
Kontido na. Medyo dire-diretso.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, go ahead, Andre.
Gusto ko nga, dire-diretso ka. Ito na, dire-diretso na tayo. Kanina pinakita natin, and we're gonna be showing again the numbers here. Yung disparity dito sa free throw. Kasi ang laking, ito, makikita natin 1B yung Bay Area, 18 out of 21. They took 21 attempts from the line, 85%. Ginebra only went to the line 5 times. They only shot it 5 times. 3 of 5, 60%, 3 out of 5. Do you think naging susi dito yung free throws? If you take a look, di ba? 18 points coming from the free throw line and then only 3 for Ginebra. Your thoughts on this, 1B?
Initially, you'd say that that would be the key stat that spelled the difference. Obviously, that's plus 15 points already for Bay Area, right? But I had to dig deeper also, and I looked at other statistics to kind of make sense out of these numbers. And when you look at the fouls given by Ginebra or committed in game one, they had 17 fouls. And in game two, they had 20 fouls. So that's just plus 3. If you're really looking at the free throw lines as a result of that, then you should see also the disparity of the fouls given, right? But that's just plus 3. So meaning that I felt like it was a consistent. Obviously, there were some adjustments from game one to game two in terms of officiating, but you have to give credit also to Bay Area. Bay Area had 42 attempts from the three-point line in game one. In game two, they had only 30. That's less 12 attempts from the three-point territory. And then their points in the paint from game one, that is 32 points only, they scored 42 points in the paint. So you can obviously say that they attacked the basket more, which resulted to more fouls. Because in the previous game, they settled for outside shots. Yes, they got 17 fouls of Ginebra, but those weren't fouls that resulted to free throws attempts for them. But in game two, they knew that this is how the game will be called. So why don't we
Yes.
exploit it? Let's go attack the baskets. Let's get those calls. Let's get those fouls. But at the same time, earn ourselves some free throws. And so for me, you can't just say na, oh, free throws kasi. But if you look at the fouls,
Yeah.
plus tatlo lang yung difference ng
Yung,
fouls na binigay ng
correct.
Ginebra from game 1 and game 2. Dapat doon makita na natin na mas madami, drastic yung change in terms of fouls given. But it's not it. So you will have to say, I have to give credit to Bay Area to being able to not just look at how Ginebra is playing the game, but how the games are also being called. So kudos to their scouting team as well.
And how also they play defense without fouling and sending Ginebra to the line as compared to what they did in game one. And yun nga, yung sinabi din ni Coach Tim Cohn, di ba, na yung ginawa nga daw ni Coach Brian by putting it out there in the media, that helped because not a lot of fouls were called that set Ginebra to the free throw line. The Dragons were 11 of 30. How about from the three-point area? 36.7%. Compared in game one, parang ilang binato nila, 42 attempts. They're the number one team in that department, three-point field goal percentage. And kagabi, nakita nga natin, ang chance na lang ng Ginebra is for Bay Area to have an off night, basically, from that three-point line. And kung may time pa nga, I remember, even Pauline Versosa was telling me, Ginebra would just trade baskets with the Bay Area. At one point, Japet would take a 3, and then sa Bay Area would take a 3, sagutan, but you cannot afford having a shootout with a team that can actually shoot 3. So how tough will this series be even more for Barangay Ginebra in terms of limiting Bay Area from hitting those outside shots?
You know what's interesting about numbers also is the fact that Ginebra made more 3 points than Bay Area. They had 13 3-point made baskets compared to 11 of Bay Area from the 3. Both of them, though, shot 36% from the 3. So that means Ginebra had more attempts, made more baskets, plus 2 lang sila, or meaning 6 points from the 3-point arc. But both of them just scored 36% from the 3-point territory. So that means, for me, you have to give credit to Ginebra that coming into this series, they knew that Bay Area is number 1 in that stat line in the conference. So I definitely am certain that they made adjustments how to defend the perimeter. But Bay Area also made their adjustments knowing that Ginebra knew this about them. So they moved the ball more, they attacked more. I think in game 2, they were more aggressive in exploiting the defensive rotations of Ginebra. There were a lot of instances when they had short runs because of miscues, like when Ginebra would double Timon Nicholson and then they would move without the ball, set those back doors, and then confuse the defense of Ginebra. There were a lot of switches that were happening, a lot of screens that were happening, a lot of double teaming that were happening also frequently. And then the Bay Area knew where it was coming, and if did come, they would know where to position those who didn't have the ball. And so moving without the ball, staying aggressive, there were a lot of open baskets. Driving to the basket for Bay Area because they read the defense of Ginebra so well, and then just went aggressive to the rim, and they got the fouls or they got those easy slams to the basket.
Well, let's talk about the imports now. I actually saw Justin Brownlee last night after the match, having dinner with his son, Justin Jr. His numbers were, kumbaga, in game 2, 32 points, import-like numbers, 11 boards, 4 assists. But don't you think na, kung watching Brownlee na he kind of overdid things? Kasi sa three-point area, ito makikita natin. He had 14 attempts. Ito, wala pala si three-point field goal. Pero sa three-point story, 7 of 14. In game 1, he had 6 three-point attempts. And Coach Tim said after game 1, while kayang mag-dominate nga ni Brownlee in this series, he just needed to carefully select his shots, play within the system, and make his teammates involved on offense. Here, he just had 3 assists here. So your thoughts on Justin Brownlee? Because if you take a look at the numbers, you'll be fine after looking, although mas efficient dito si Nicholson at 52%, 11 of 21. But your thoughts on Brownlee's performance, not numbers, but performance last night?
Well, 42% also not bad at Andre shooting in the field. That's close to, more. That's still a good, I think, a good number to put up for Justin Brown. Like you said, numbers won't really, kind of define the game that Justin Brownlee had. But for me, I think, early on in the first quarter, ginanahan din kasi si Justin Brownlee was making his threes. Those were difficult threes. So he kind of felt like, I'd probably be waxing hot this entire game. So he took more of those kinds of baskets. But you have to credit also Bay Area for their defense. They did bait, and Coach Tim did mention that their defensive strategy worked because they baited Justin Brownlee into taking, tons and tons of shots without really creating and setting up his teammates. I think because the dynamics also changed in game 2, they were trailing when Bay Area was just playing so well in the second quarter. That led, and you have to understand, the first half was, really spelled the difference because in the first half, Bay Area scored 22 points and then 30 points in the second quarter, while they limited Ginebra to 16 points in the first quarter and only 19 in the second quarter. So, I think it's a natural tendency of any import that if you're trailing, your mentality is to take over and carry the team on your shoulders because you're the import, because you're expected to do that. And so I think that really paid off in the third quarter, but he didn't have enough to sustain him in the fourth quarter, wherein Bay Area scored 31 points and limited Ginebra to only 22. So, I think you cannot question how Justin Brownlee plays because he's been here for so long. He's proven, he's had results. So I think it's a matter of just adjusting within the game and his teammates really reminding him and telling Justin that he doesn't have to carry the load all by himself, and would take the entire team to get back into the ball game.
Well, Juan, before we let you go, I still have a lot of questions, syempre, for this series heading into Game 3. Pero wala na tayong oras. Let's first take a look at our quiz question of the day. Find out the answer to your quiz question of the day. Bagal. Luka Doncic is one of 2 players who have recorded 60 points as part of a triple-double in the NBA. Who is the other? I think alam ko na kung sino yung isa. Binanggit mo na kanina.
Talaga? Michael Jordan ba? Or Kobe Bryant? Kobe! Hindi, Michael Jordan. Sino ba? Larry Bird?
Tingnan natin kung
I
sagot.
mentioned so many times.
Ako alam ko na eh. Pero sa assist siya na gano'n. Ayan. James Harden, the beard, became the first NBA player to post a 60-point triple-double back in 2018. I remember watching this game actually against the Orlando Magic. 60 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists during his time with the Houston Rockets 4 years ago. Grabe, ang bilis, no? Tapos ngayon, Philadelphia, iba na. Well, Juan B, always a pleasure having you. Again, we don't have time, but we'll talk to you again next time for sure. Have a great New Year's weekend, welcoming in the brand new year. And we'll see you Jan 4, Game 3 Wednesday. Ingat ka, Juan B. Stay safe. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Basketball analyst Juan Banal.